The episode of The View that featured country music legend Willie Nelson started off with the usual friendly banter and warm applause from the audience. But things took a turn far quicker than anyone could have anticipated. Joy Behar, known for her sharp wit and direct approach, engaged Willie in a discussion that began as a light-hearted exchange about his decades-long career, but shifted when the topic turned toward political activism and personal beliefs. Willie, a long-standing advocate for various social and environmental causes, spoke passionately about topics close to his heart. Yet the conversation's tone changed when Joy challenged his views with a pointed and somewhat sarcastic remark, prompting a noticeable tension in the air. The audience, which had been laughing moments earlier, grew quiet as the back and forth between the two intensified, with Willie responding in his calm but firm manner, making it clear he didn't appreciate the insinuations being made. Joy pressed further, perhaps expecting him to play along or offer a humorous retort. But instead, Willie leaned back, adjusted his hat, and after a long pause, said something that drew a collective gasp from the audience, a line that carried both finality and frustration. Without raising his voice, he set his guitar down, stood up, and announced that he wasn't going to continue a conversation that he felt had crossed into disrespect. Then walked off the stage to stunned silence, leaving the co-hosts scrambling to fill the awkward gap and the live audience buzzing with disbelief. Backstage, Willie Nelson's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the swirl of activity among producers, crew members, and network staff, all rushing to manage the fallout from his sudden departure, while some tried to coax him back on set with reassurances that the conversation could be steered in a more positive direction. Willie stood firm, explaining that his decision to walk away was not about avoiding hard questions, but about drawing a clear line when discussions turn into confrontations, devoid of mutual respect. Joy Behar, still seated at the table, attempted to move the show forward by making a light joke about the incident. But the nervous laughter from the audience betrayed the tension lingering in the room. Social media clips of the walk-off began circulating almost instantly, with hashtags like #WillieWalks and #ViewShowdown trending within minutes, and fans rallying to his defense, praising him for standing his ground in an environment that many felt had become more about provocation than genuine dialogue. Insiders at the network whispered about how rare it was for a guest of his stature to leave mid-broadcast, and debates erupted online about whether Joy's style of questioning had gone too far, or whether Willie had overreacted. As the dust settled, it became clear that the confrontation had ignited a larger conversation about the balance between challenging guests and respecting their boundaries, ensuring that The View would be dissecting and defending this moment for weeks to come. In the days following the incident, Willie Nelson remained largely silent in public, choosing instead to let his brief post-show statement speak for itself. Simple, handwritten note posted to his social media accounts that read, "Respect should never be optional." The note went viral, resonating deeply with fans and public figures alike, many of whom reposted it with their own messages of support. Meanwhile, Joy Behar addressed the walk-off during the next broadcast of The View, acknowledging that the exchange had become a little more heated than intended, but stopping short of offering an outright apology, framing the clash as part of the show's brand of honest conversation. This, in turn, sparked yet another wave of online debates, with some praising Joy for sticking to her guns, and others criticizing her for failing to take responsibility. Behind the scenes, sources revealed that producers had reached out privately to Willie's team to smooth things over, offering to host him again in the future under mutually respectful conditions. But there was no indication that Willie would accept. Music journalists noted that the clash had unexpectedly elevated Willie's public profile among younger audiences, unfamiliar with his decades of activism, painting him as a figure unwilling to compromise his principles for the sake of a television segment. The incident also prompted think pieces about the broader culture of daytime talk shows, questioning whether confrontational moments were being encouraged for the sake of ratings, and whether the public appetite for such drama was overshadowing the value of meaningful dialogue, turning what began as a tense on-air exchange into a cultural flashpoint that seemed destined to linger far beyond the broadcast. As the media frenzy intensified, television analysts began dissecting every frame of the now infamous clip, pointing out the exact moment when Willie Nelson's relaxed smile faded into a look of quiet resolve, as if he had decided in real time that the conversation no longer served any constructive purpose. Slow-motion replays circulated online, accompanied by captions like "This is when he knew" and "Legend's limit reached." Entertainment outlets capitalized on the momentum, booking panels of celebrity commentators to weigh in on whether Joy Behar's sharp, questioning style had been a journalistic necessity or an unnecessary provocation, with some even comparing it to past walk-offs by other notable figures. In Nashville, fellow country music artists voiced solidarity with Willie, some posting old photos with him and sharing stories of his calm but unshakable stance on respect, while others used the moment to spotlight how entertainment platforms often blur the line between debate and spectacle. Meanwhile, inside the View's production offices, sources claimed that the network's executive team was split half, believing the controversy was damaging to the show's credibility, and half convinced it was drawing in record-breaking viewership. Whispers emerged that a follow-up statement from Joy might be in the works. But skepticism remained about whether such a gesture would come across as sincere or simply strategic damage control. As the story continued to trend globally, it became evident that what might have been dismissed as a fleeting TV spat had evolved into a defining cultural moment, not only for Willie Nelson's career, but also for the ongoing conversation about civility, confrontation, and the real cost of ratings-driven entertainment. In the weeks that followed, the ripple effects of Willie Nelson's walk-off continued to surface in unexpected places. From late-night monologues that playfully reenacted the moment with exaggerated dramatics, to university communication classes using the incident as a case study in media ethics and the psychology of live interviews, country music radio stations began running segments, asking listeners how they would have handled Joy Behar's line of questioning, sparking heated call-ins that revealed just how polarizing the clash had become. Willie himself, while keeping interviews sparse, subtly addressed the topic during a concert in Austin when he paused between songs to say, "Sometimes the best thing you can say is nothing at all and then just walk away," drawing thunderous applause and knowing laughter from the crowd. Merchandising opportunists jumped in, selling t-shirts emblazoned with slogans like "Walk Like Willie" and "Respect Ain't Optional," which quickly became staples at music festivals. On the flip side, Joy Behar's defenders ramped up, producing think pieces and podcast episodes arguing that hard questions are a necessary part of public discourse, even if they make guests uncomfortable, framing Willie's exit as an overreaction. Still, the public sentiment leaned heavily in Willie's favor, with hashtags supporting him trending sporadically, weeks after the episode aired. Even other talk show hosts subtly referenced the moment, promising guests a Willie-friendly environment as a light-hearted assurance. The lasting takeaway, for many observers, was that the incident had transcended mere celebrity gossip, becoming a symbolic reminder that in the fast-paced world of television, moments of quiet defiance can sometimes resonate far louder than the most intense on-air debates. Months later, the moment had cemented itself as one of the most talked-about live TV walk-offs in recent memory, with media analysts dissecting its staying power and cultural impact, noting how it had bridged generational divides. Older fans viewed it as a throwback to a time when celebrities unapologetically stood on principle, while younger audiences saw it as a masterclass in setting boundaries under pressure. Willie Nelson, true to his reputation for keeping things understated, rarely mentioned the event directly. Yet his occasional cryptic remarks in interviews, like "you can't play music with someone who refuses to listen," were interpreted as subtle nods to the clash. Meanwhile, Joy Behar maintained that she bore no ill will, but her occasional wry jokes about guests pulling a Willie hinted that the incident lingered in her mind as much as it did in the public's. The episode itself became a ratings benchmark for The View, with network executives privately acknowledging that the controversy had spiked viewership and online engagement beyond expectations. Documentaries about talk show history began including the walk-off alongside other infamous live TV moments, framing it as both a cautionary tale and an example of how authenticity, whether confrontational or graceful, can captivate audiences. Fans continued to bring it up at Willie's concerts, often shouting supportive remarks that he'd respond to with a quick grin or a tip of his hat. And as the years rolled on, the moment evolved from phrase.
In the long arc of Willie Nelson's storied career, the day he walked off The View became one of those peculiar yet unforgettable footnotes, a moment that, while small compared to his decades of music and activism, carried a symbolic weight that fans and media alike refused to let fade. Historians of television talk shows began to revisit the clash in think pieces, using it as a lens to explore the evolving relationship between celebrity guests and daytime TV hosts. where the boundaries between candid conversation and staged controversy often blur. Willie himself seemed to lean into the mythos without overindulging it. He would sometimes strum a few playful notes mid-concert before quipping, "Guess I should have saved that for Joy," earning knowing laughter from audiences who recognized the reference instantly. Joy Behar, for her part, eventually reflected on the incident in a memoir, admitting that while her approach was meant to spark a lively debate, she underestimated Willie's threshold for what he considered respectful discourse. The network, aware of the incident's enduring notoriety, quietly studied it as a case study in guest relations, even incorporating it into internal training sessions for producers on handling live conflicts. Fan art memes, and even novelty t-shirts bearing slogans like "Walk It Like Willie" kept the story alive in pop culture, making it clear that the walk-off had transcended being a mere TV moment to become a part of Willie Nelson's legend. And though both parties eventually moved on, the encounter remained a perfect reminder of how, in the unpredictable world of live television, sometimes the most powerful statement is made not with words, but with the act of simply standing up and walking away. Years after Willie Nelson's walk-off from The View, the incident still resonates as a cultural touchstone, not only because of its shock value in the moment, but because of the deeper conversations it sparked about authenticity, respect, and the fragile balance between entertainment and dignity in live television. Industry analysts point to it as a prime example of how unscripted moments can redefine public perception, noting that Willie's departure reinforced his image as an artist unwilling to compromise his principles. Even in the face of national broadcast pressure, the clip continues to circulate online, gathering millions of views on platforms where new generations discover it and weigh in with their own takes. Some praising Willie's stand for self-respect, others debating whether Joy Behar's approach was provocative or simply part of her on-air persona. Media schools dissect the exchange in classrooms, framing it as a study in communication breakdowns, while country music historians weave it into the broader narrative of Willie's rebellious spirit. Merchandise, fan tattoos, and even tribute performances referencing the walk-off keep the event alive in popular culture, proving its lasting imprint. Joy herself has acknowledged in later interviews that while the clash was uncomfortable, it was also a reminder of how live TV thrives on unpredictability. Ultimately, the moment has become a kind of folklore in the entertainment world, a testament to the fact that, in an era when so much is staged, one unscripted act of defiance can echo far beyond the studio walls, shaping a legacy in ways no scripted segment ever could. Asterisk.